Welcome to the Cleanweb Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Woon Tan, and today with me, I've got James Smith, who's the founder of the London Cleanweb meetup, and he's been running the meetup for 2.5 years, and it's the biggest Cleanweb meetup in the world, and he's very proud of it. You could see him smiling there, yep. And so he's been involved in Cleanweb since 2007, and James, you're a web developer, and you've been working with a bunch of Cleanweb companies and projects. And so, hi.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm good. This is all very professional. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take this off. I think it's just more comfortable. So, yeah, here we've taken months to get to this point of actually starting to record a first episode. So yeah, I'm really happy to have you here.
It's great to be here. I mean, we've had various discussions on the train on the way back from meetups and things. It's really great to see it coming to fruition. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. I guess one of the first question that I've got is, what is Cleanweb, and how would you sort of describe Cleanweb?
That's always a great question. You know,
from your experience, how has it sort of evolved?
So, our sort of short summary of Cleanweb is that the idea of Cleanweb is to address resource and sustainability challenges with connected information technology. That's kind of the official tagline, if you like.
The latest one.
Yeah. In no way did I have to read it off the screen. But put more simply, it's about using the web to make a more sustainable world, about dealing with the challenges that are facing us around sustainability, around resources, around energy, and using the amazing power of the web to deal with those better. We have, I always like to say, we have massive problems that we have to deal with, but we have amazing tools. So it's about applying those tools to those problems. We have another a little tagline that's come through recently, which is smart, social, sustainable, which is quite nice.
Social, sustainable.
Yeah, quite like that.
Social because it's the connected element.
Yeah. The connected part's very important. The intelligence that you can get from the network, and then the sustainability is at the core of the whole thing, obviously.
I like that. It's short.
Yeah, short is good.
It's shorter, yeah. and sort of, could you sort of elaborate more about the history of how the movement has sort of progressed, or how has it started and what got you into it?
It's an interesting question. So there've been people working on doing this kind of thing for a very long time. We know of projects here in the UK going back to 2005. I mean, that's 9 years ago now. It's ridiculous. And even further, wow. there were people working on this quite a long time back. As a movement, though, it's somewhat newer. So there've been a lot of people working on different projects, but we weren't sort of in touch with each other, and knowing what everyone else was doing. It was quite disconnected. So I've been working on projects like this since about 2007, various different things, including for a while I was working at a company called Amy, which was the Avoiding Mass Extinctions Engine, which was I love the... It's great. It's a great acronym. Yeah. And it was a web service for carbon calculation, basically. So it would do all of the complicated carbon calculation science that people would need if you were going to, measure everything accurately. The idea was, once you measure things, you can manage them. Yeah. So it was trying to do that with carbon emissions, and I was working there. And one of the things you need for an API like that is you need a client base, and you need a whole bunch of developers who want to use it. So we decided that we ought to try and find out who they all were, and we started a meetup about 2.5 years ago. It was just a simple meetup in a pub, and for the first 2 or 3 months, it was a very quiet meetup in a pub, mostly a few Amy folks and a couple of others that we knew. But these things start small, obviously.
Yeah. So going back to what you said earlier, could you explain what is an API? Because I'm not from a sort of developer background, and I'm not a techie person. So I guess some people want to sort of understand.
You're gonna call me out on my assumptions. That's really good. So API stands for Application Programming Interface, or various other things that people put on it. But essentially, it's a protocol that you can use to talk to another service or whatever. So if the Twitter app on your iPhone, for instance, will talk to the main Twitter service using their API. It's like a connection into their system. So we had an API that provided calculations that people could do, so they didn't have to have them in their own systems. They could call out to our system to do it for them, essentially. So sort of APIs all over the internet, all talking to each other.
And they are sort of, is it something that's based on a website that you have to?
It can work in various ways. I mean, that traditionally it's in traditional sort of local software. Really, you have software libraries that have a certain interface, and they all talk to each other in that way. But yeah, you can distribute it over the web as well.
Right.
So yeah.
So it's widely used, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes.
Okay. So you were in AMI and sort of and at that time the movement sort of, I guess, started, or were you aware of it before you joined AMI? Or?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'd worked on a few different projects in that area, and it was obviously a thing. I mean, I had I ran a mailing list from sometime in 2007, which was the Cleanweb UK mailing list, which was presciently named because I couldn't think of anything better, and that was an idea just to try and get people who were interested in this talking. It never took off, as these things often don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was obviously sort of a bunch of people working on this stuff, and there was a sort of one-day conference called Geek Kyoto in, I think, 2008, where a bunch of these projects were all presented. I talked about my projects.
Geek Kyoto.
Yeah. Amy were there talking about theirs, and a bunch of others as well. And a lot of connections and things came out of that. So that was a sort of early connection point for the community, I think. But yeah, it's taken a few years to mature into something bigger.
and I guess for me the exciting thing is that it's sort of now become such a successful event. Every month you got regular speakers, and they're all sort of filled up, and people are really keen to learn more. And I think that's the main sort of thing with the meetup, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really great. I'm really proud of what we've managed to build in London. We've gone from, as I say, two blokes sat on a pub table at the front of the Reliance on Old Street, to now, getting in 80 odd people a month, to listen to talks from. We normally have sort of 3 or 4 speakers on a particular topic, and we're regularly pulling people in. And the meetup group in total has now 770 members.
Yeah.
So we've had
quite a meetup group. It's huge.
We're very proud of it. There are plenty of others out there, but we're very proud of what we've built, definitely.
So how has the meetup evolved over time? Because I know you guys tried different formats and sort of teams, and
and that's really important part of it is to keep changing that format and see what people want, because it's all about the community. So it's all about the people who are attending and what they actually want and what they'll get out of it. So like I say, we started with just meeting up in a pub as a social thing. That didn't really attract anyone very much, but we did it for a few months. We got a big boost from the London Green Hackathon in January 2012, which Amy ran at UCL, and we had about 100 developers along to that, and we sort of said, if you want to meet up again afterwards, we're running this meetup. So the first month after that, we had a whole bunch of people in the pub, and that was really good. We then picked up a few people who were willing to be regular organisers. Myself, Jason Naylan, and Jack Townsend, and Chris Adams as well, who'd been with me at Amy. But it sort of became a sort of an organiser group at that point. And we kept sort of running the socials. They were nice and easy to organise, but we knew that people wanted something a little bit more. So in September 2012, we ran our first speaker-based event, and we ran an Ignite evening. And if you don't know the Ignite format, it's where each of the speakers has 5 minutes. They have 20 slides, and their slides move on automatically without them. So it's very, I think it's very similar to Petrakuta and other similar formats. So it's quite chaotic.
Going,
yeah, definitely. So we had 10 speakers on that first event. We did it at Forward in Camden, and I think we had about 90 people in the room, and it was really, really great. And yeah, the Ignite format's so much fun that even if you have a boring speaker, which we didn't, they were all great. It's over in a couple of minutes, so there's no time to it's very dynamic. It really keeps people interested, and it's always fun to watch people, their slides getting away from them. And even though I'd watched everybody else do theirs, mine still got away from me, and it's actually, this is really fast. So
because it keeps you to the point, and
definitely, yeah. So we had a whole bunch of speakers from different organisations that we knew about already, who'd been coming to the socials, and then at the end I sort of wrapped it up with a state of the Cleanweb in the UK and a bit of a call to action for let's go and make the world better, sort of thing. So it was a really, really good fun night, and it was obvious that that's what people wanted. They wanted to hear what others were doing in that more sort of structured way. So then we moved to doing regular talks nights. We started alternating every other month with a social one, but it was very clear very quickly that it was obviously the talks nights that were bringing people in. So we settled on a sort of rhythm of doing those every month and having 2 or 3 speakers coming in and talking, and they've just built from there, really. But we keep changing the format, so we keep trying to introduce new things. This year we've introduced give-get boards at the back of the hall, so that you can, if you're looking for something, some skills or someone's time, or a developer or whatever, you can put up a card. And
I think that's a brilliant idea, because the people that turn up for the events are keen to help out,
absolutely,
to contribute.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've used it myself, and I thought it's such a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it's a really nice addition for doing job postings and things like that, and or for people offering help. So we've had the really nice things of when people put up one of each. So it's like, well, we need somebody to help us with this, but we can offer you that in return. So, and even if it's not something the same person wants, it all kind of goes around in the community. So it's a really nice way of doing things. That's quite enjoyable. They all go online now and are tweeted out during the events. So that's pretty good. And we keep changing the format of the night as well. So we now have a couple of longer talks and a couple of lightning talks to give people more chance to try it out. It's lightning talks are a really good way to start if you haven't spoken in public before, or if you haven't spoken in public about your project before. It's a really nice way to start without doing a whole 20-minute talk or whatever.
Yeah, and I think the whole environment is a very friendly environment, and people are sort of there to learn and give support, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lovely community. It's the great thing about having a shared vision of how things should be is that you've instantly got something in common with everyone else who's there. It's not just, I'm not just turning up to a language meetup where I happen to program in the same language as these guys, but I don't actually know whether we agree on anything. Whereas at the Cleanweb one, you at least know that people are there for the same reasons as you, which is really nice. It's a bunch of lovelier people I have not met. It's great.
And just to give the listeners a sort of flavor of some of the teams. So I know starting from quite a few months ago, we've sort of introduced themes. And
yeah, we've always done themed events around a particular topic. We've done a few sort of catch-alls, but the more successful ones are normally around a theme. So we've done things like energy is obviously always an easy one to fill. There's lots of energy stuff going on. Food's very popular. That brought in a lot of new people. All those sort of different areas of sustainability. We've done things on flooding. I mean, I'm trying to think what we've done this year. We've done food, flooding.
There's a mapping one, wasn't it?
Mapping.
Yeah, so that was the flooding one.
Actually, that was the flooding one. We're going to do a full mapping one later in the year. It's still on the list. We've got a biodiversity one coming up. We did the activism one last month, which was actually a whole new format for us, where we did a panel discussion of. We had short talks from 3 speakers, and then they joined a panel, and that was really good. The only thing is you have to watch the entire video online. You can't just watch one talk.
No, I thought that format was really good because the engagement was very different as well.
It gave people a really good chance to engage and debate around the issues in the audience, and I think that's something we'll want to do more of. There was obviously people got something out of it, I think. So, we always have questions for the speakers, but it's around specifically what they've talked about. Whereas it might be nice to sort of open that up more a little bit, and if we've got a theme about food, people can ask their questions about sustainability of food, where it might not have been something that the speakers would have spoken about, but if they're working in that area, they're bound to know something about it. So it's nice to keep playing with the format and to keep bringing in new themes. It expands the group and it keeps it interesting for everyone, I think. It's a really good way of building the numbers because we've had some really popular ones. We had an Internet of Things crossover with the London IoT meetup. And that was great because you're bringing together 2 big meetups and they both benefit. So actually running a joint event with them or reaching out to new communities for the food or the flooding events, it's good fun.
Maybe one of the regular food gathering meetups.
Yeah, the common the big topics come round again and again. Yeah. So we'll come back to food. We'll definitely be coming back to energy. That's one you can easily do every few months. It's there's a lot of scope.
So, following up from that question, where do you see the different segments evolving in Cleanweb within the space?
It's a really interesting question. Even just what those segments are is kind of open to definition at the moment. There's a lot of work that's going on within our group and within the Cleanweb community globally, because we're part of a global network, not just here in the UK, around defining what that is. And I'm not the best person to talk about that because our organizer Jack has put a lot more effort into that. It's very much his thing. But yeah, it's really, when you look at it, it's a very wide area because it can cover really anything. We're in a situation where pretty much everything that we do can be done more sustainably.
Yeah.
And we live in a world where more and more everything we do is connected to the web. So, the opportunities are really enormous. I think it's one of those things that will, in a way, become an area of stuff, but then later on it'll just be how things are done. We'll do things sustainably and we'll generally do them on the web. It's kind of the future, really, I think. But yeah, in terms of defining what the common areas and the sort of the main industry verticals and things, that's still an ongoing thing, but it's you do see the common themes coming out around the sort of the general sustainability themes, but also around.
Do you find a challenge like explaining Cleanweb and to someone who's completely
to an interviewer, for instance? Quite obviously so.
Well, I mean, the thing is, because it took me months to even understand some of the different parts of it. So
yeah, it is an issue. At its core, it's a very simple idea. That idea of using the web for sustainability. That's kind of, it seems quite simple, but maybe that's because I've been in it so long. But but then when you start unpicking things and trying to work out, well, is that thing Cleanweb? Is it not? Is it, where do the boundaries lie? Then actually it gets quite complicated and to work out, and I think that's why Jack's had to put so much work into it. But he's very good at it. Yeah, exactly, a whole PhD on this stuff. So it's that's really good that he's done that, along with others as well who've been involved.
So, where do you see what are the current challenges that Cleanweb as a movement is facing right now?
So, there's a number of things. I mean, first is there's a sort of general identity challenge. So people like to put things in boxes, and in a way, Cleanweb is a box to put things in and to identify with. So there was a really good lightning talk from one of our most long-standing and more successful members, Jamie Andrews from Loco 2, where he did a lightning talk at Christmas, and he talked about the problems that come from being a company that's trying to make the world more sustainable in a commercial way. You're not going to deliver the fast returns that the traditional VCs want necessarily. You're not a social enterprise, so you don't fall under that kind of thing, and so you kind of fall between these more traditional areas, and so having the kind of the Cleanweb recognition of a thing, and actually this is what we're trying to do. We're that's a useful thing. So just identity is quite a challenge, I think, for a lot of companies in this area, because it is a new area.
Because I think, so that's Loco 2, isn't it? And
yes,
and for me, like it's a company that's trying to allow others to be more sustainable.
Absolutely,
in a very traditional, very simple way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's so powerful, yet under it's not used enough. Like these sort of methods, I guess. Yeah,
and that's one of the other ways of splitting Cleanweb is in how you actually try and have that sustainability impact. And so, Loco 2 is a really great example of the a situation helping others to make their sustainable behaviour more easily. Some of those were words. I kind of changed how I was going to say it halfway through. Making it easier for others to be more sustainable. And so that Loco 2, for listeners who don't know what it is a website that allows you to book European rail travel as easily as you would book an EasyJet flight, for instance. So it takes away the pain of sorting out all the conflicting European railway timetables and things like that. And they've put an enormous amount of work into making this easy. And it really is now. It's great. I'm going to the Open Knowledge Festival in Berlin in July, and I'm going both ways there and back on a train booked with Loco 2. So I'm really, really, really pleased with that. And they're powering the Guardian travel section now and things. So they're kind of they're doing very well. So that kind of thing of making sustainable behaviour easier is a big thing. There's another big area around exposing information that helps people to be more sustainable. So that sort of area of energy monitoring, things like that, and then providing nudges in the right direction. You have companies like O-Power in the States, for instance, who will look at your energy usage, compare you to others in a similar area, and give you a nice little smiley face based on whether you're being more efficient than your neighbours, or two smiley faces if you're doing really well. And it's those little things that can actually make a difference. So there's that kind of thing as well. And there's other areas, other ways of making an impact as well. So some stuff is just around information sharing. For instance, you have the various sustainability blogs and things which, technically fall into the area as well, I think. So it can get very wide.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting one, because obviously we're using Cleanweb to manage resources better.
Yeah.
As Cleanweb solutions, and for me, like
absolutely.
itself is a resource, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You can think of it in that way. And
Yeah. I mean, there's, absolutely. That sort of resource use thing is a big part of it, and I think it's sort of the kind of the more traditional Cleanweb. That's where the investment is more likely to go and things. But then, absolutely, the way that that information is got out to people, the way that the information flows around. The efficiency of the network itself is an important factor in Cleanweb. So, how efficient are your data centers? Not how efficient, because that's a bit of a distraction. Actually, how sustainable are they? And what's the real impact at the end of the day?
Because there is quite different...
Massive variation, absolutely. There's a great... the winner of the London Green Hackathon was a company called Mastodon C, who produced a carbon dashboard for data centers around the world. And they did that by looking at where they were, what the power generation fuel mix was in that area, the ambient temperatures, so the amount of cooling that would be required and things like that. And so you have things like the Amazon AWS US East, which is the default choice when you're using Amazon Web Services, which is in Virginia, which is powered by coal. So it's massively polluting. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have things like Green Cloud, which is AWS compatible. So all the same stuff you want to do there run in Amazon runs on Green Cloud as well, but it's in Iceland. And Iceland runs on volcanoes, so your data center is I prefer to think of it as powered by lava, as Chris said. My data center is powered by lava. It's amazing. It's much cooler.
Nice. Where do you see the meetup, the long term sort of development of the London meetup itself?
So I think what we know what we do well. Mm-hmm. We're bringing that community together. There are other groups that we work with in London, like the Climate Change Coders meetup, who are more involved in actually getting together and making things, which is really good. Having different people focusing on different things is fantastic. It makes life a lot easier. So we're going to carry on doing that, focusing on bringing together the community, showcasing what people have done, and helping them meet each other and do more things. So it's great when startups form out of the group. It's amazing. It's really, really nice. But we're part of a much larger network as well. So there is the global network of groups like us all around the world, running meetups or hack days or things like that. We want to continue to expand that globally across Europe. But one of the really important things is to expand it across the UK as well. We have the London meetup group. There's also, under the Cleanweb UK umbrella, there's also a meetup in Scotland, kind of on the Glasgow-Edinburgh axis there. They've been going for, I think, maybe a year or so. You'll have to interview Rory at some point to see to hear about it, everything they've been doing. They've been running some meetups and some hack days and things as well, and have done really well with their community up there. But also we want to push it out further across the UK. So the great a lot of things concentrate in London. London's very. It doesn't tend to look outside itself. I'm fortunate in that I don't live in London, so I realise that there are other parts of England, not just London and not London. So I'm really, really keen to get other meetup groups going across the rest of the country. We've got some early indications that there may be some setting up elsewhere, but if anybody's listening and knows people working in this area in their town or city, then set one up. It's really easy. We'll help. We can all work together. The UK is a really nice place for this because we have a lot of centres of innovation. The big cities: Bristol, Oxford, Cambridge, Manchester, other cities, Liverpool, many others.
And I think with Cleanweb as a movement, it's central to cities, isn't it? And there's a lot of I guess advantages of having communities that are developing their own technologies that are very much tailored to their own community.
Yeah, absolutely. The best things are going to be, and the most interesting ideas are going to come from people who are really bought into them, who are doing it because that's what they need. But yeah, we have a lot of, like I say, a lot of centres of innovation around the country, a lot of centres of technical development and of sustainability, and so bringing all those together is it's bringing together the different aspects. It's the really important thing about the community is that we're not just a developer community, we're not just a sustainability community, we're both.
Yeah.
And you get people talking to each other who wouldn't have met otherwise, and it means you come up with much more interesting things than just another you put a bunch of developers in a room and say do something with sustainability and they'll make another recycling map, which we have those, it's fine. But you give them a few sustainability experts as well, and the really interesting problems will come out. So I think spreading that further can only be more and more powerful. And yeah, there's a big overlap with things like smart cities, stuff like that, but also a lot of the big sustainability challenges are out in the country as well. So we need people from everywhere with all their insights and all their expertise to help us use the web to make the world better.
Right. Where do you see yourself going with this?
Oh,
a personal question.
That's a question. Where do I see myself going with this or anything in general? I have absolutely no idea. My entire career has been a kind of random walk of doing interesting things, and that's a nice way of doing it. You end up in interesting places. I honestly don't know. I think I'm going to be concentrating on, as far as Cleanweb's concerned, concentrating on trying to build those networks across the country. I think trying to incubate some of those other groups and get them up and running and spread that around a bit. That's certainly something that I'm very interested in. We've got a new cohort of organisers in London who are extremely capable and have come in with lots of new energy and taken over from us, who are getting a bit old and jaded. But that's really great to have a new set of people doing that. It means that we can spread our wings a little and set our sights on helping others to do the same across the country, which would be really, really nice. But yeah, other than that, I never know what's going to happen the next day, let alone further down the line. The whole secret to the entire world is that nobody knows what they're doing. We're all just winging it.
Winging it.
But the other things about that we need to concentrate on with building Cleanweb up in this country, I think, is getting more interest in it, getting more momentum under the whole sector. So, getting more investment interest, showing that it's something that's investable in and that you can, get those returns, so that we can not just have a community of people who are interested in it in their spare time, but a bunch of people who get to do it all day, every day, and spend their entire life making the world better, which is great.
I think the awareness itself has evolved, and it's definitely growing, isn't it?
It's coming on. Yeah, it's coming on, definitely. It's a long slog. It always is with these things, but yeah, it is growing. It's helped by some of the big news that's come out of the States recently, the massive acquisitions and valuations of things like O-Power and Nest. Recently got bought by Google and is now on billboard adverts all over London, which is insane.
Yeah, it's
a thermostat. It's mental. I'm not used to people being interested in things like thermostats. I thought that was just me. So it's but that's a really, really good thing, right? This is what we want, getting some momentum under it. So now that we can point to examples like that and successes like the other organisations that we have here in London, companies like Carbon Culture, like Loco2, the more successes we can point to, the
quicker the momentum
absolutely
goes.
yeah, and these things snowball. So at some point somebody will decide it's a cool thing, and they'll, I don't know, put some put some investment under it or something like that, or we'll get some accelerators going, and yeah, it'd be good stuff.
Yeah, very nice. I guess the last thing is so for people who wants to get involved for the London meetup group, what's the best way?
So the best way is to go to cleanweb.org.uk.
Yeah.
That's our the main website for Cleanweb UK. From there you can find links to any of the local meetup groups. Go along, sign up.
We've got a very active Twitter account, haven't we?
Yes, there's quite an active Twitter account. You can follow us at Cleanweb UK. And yeah, lots of details of our events, of other things that we find interesting, will go out on there as well. So both of those. We have a Facebook page as well. It's not used so much. The communities that we that are interested in this don't tend to operate so much on Facebook here in the UK. It's different in different parts of the world. I always find that really interesting. Yeah, some places it's Facebook is the thing where all that goes on, but here it seems to be Twitter a lot more. So follow us on Twitter at Cleanweb UK. Visit the website.
The meetup itself is it the last Monday?
Last Monday of each month. Yeah. Yes, that's the normal thing. We've got a few events coming up. We've got an event at the end of June where we've got Rockstart coming over from Amsterdam. They're an accelerator program they're the only Cleanweb accelerator in Europe, I think, is their spiel. They're bringing over some of their startups who've been in their program to tell us what they do and to get some feedback as well. So it's very much a interactive thing.
Yeah.
That's going to be really interesting. And we've got then, I think, a biodiversity event at the end of July. We're having August off because nobody turns up in August. And then September we're getting into mapping, and then it's later in the year. I've got no idea what's going on. But yeah, it's great. That'd be really good. I should say thank you to our very nice supporters who support the London Cleanweb meetup. We have lovely sponsorship from Carbon Culture. You can find them at carbonculture.net. They're lovely people.
Sweet. Yeah, I think it's such a well-run event, and I highly recommend anyone who's interested in sustainability or resource management or clean web or the various strands of the movement to get involved. And that's it really for our first episode. And I don't know if you got any last thing to say.
Last things to say. I was going to say it's only well run because they don't let me near it anymore. But no, I think it's. I just encourage people to take part. It's a lovely community of people, of ideas, and of potential. It's a really exciting area to be involved in. So come along, join us. Yeah,
get involved. So there you go. I'll wrap up now, and thank you very much, James.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Cleanweb Conversations Podcast.